Hello and welcome into the Ultras on TS. I'm Jordan Fabian Khan alongside Jeff Wall, Josh Piercy and Kurt Black. And we're going to take a tour around Europe today where football was mad, but especially in England where it was electric. The Premier League, it's nuts right now. There's no chill. We saw 27 goals across 8 matches with still 2 to go in the league. But we're going to begin in Merseyside where there was 4 goals in this one match, split 2 apiece between Liverpool and Everton, and it wasn't short of controversy. 2 offside decisions that could have proved costly in the game and maybe turned the tide towards Liverpool didn't pan out towards Liverpool's favour, and game ended tied. And they also lost the best defender in the Premier League, arguably. Jeff, what do you think about this game? Does Everton, should they have lost their first match of the season?
Well, first, I just got to correct you real quick. Virgil Van Dijk is the best defender in the Premier League. I don't think there's any doubt about it, Jordan. It's certainly not Harry Kane. Certainly not Harry Maguire. Sorry, I keep getting them confused. But either way, they might as well be the same quality defender. But I'll move on. Yes, absolutely. Everton should have lost their first game. I should have been here kind of eating it from Josh or somebody else here, or maybe the fans of the comments below, which you can always do. But you know what? They didn't. And by the grace of God, Everton is still at the top of the table some way, somehow. Jurgen Klopp is absolutely livid right now. But you know what? These things, that's football, as they say.
And it was your favorite player there, Jeff, scoring the equalizer. You got to boost your boy. You got to do it.
Dominic Calvert-Lewin doesn't need any boost. Did you see the height he got on that jump? Like unbelievable, man. That guy has been in the gym for sure, because that dude was a twig a couple seasons ago, and now he's beefed up. The other thing too, though, just talking about Virgil Van Dijk overall, there has to be nobody else in the Premier League that is more crucial to their team. I think if there is any team though that can work their way around it a little bit, I think it is Liverpool. They got just so much talent, so much attacking power, and we're going to see really how good Alisson is without his real captain there in defense. Can he pick up the slack? Can he really make up the margins of error for this Liverpool team? Because we've seen what they looked like before. Obviously, they weren't nearly as complete as they are now, but I don't like the loss of Virgil van Dijk for them. I'm not saying that they're going to be out of the title race for this, but I definitely think that they're going to have quite a few losses, or at least drop a few more points than they did last season.
If I can just say, I do think that this kind of puts them out of the title race for the time being until we can see someone else step in. You talk about what Virgil van Dijk does on the ball and in terms of tackling, but he's really a leader on that back line. He makes Trent better. He makes Andy Robertson better. He makes Joe Gomez better. He makes it easier on the midfielders knowing that he's there behind to clean up the trash if they miss. But as far as yesterday's game goes, there's no way that Liverpool should have lost that game. The fact that Sadio Mane goal was called offsides is pretty shocking. I have no idea how you can go to VAR and look at that and say it's offsides. It doesn't make any sense.
No, it's definitely going to be a long season and an interesting season for the defending champions. Now we have to move on to elsewhere in the Premier League. Another tale of 2 halves stories took place at White Hart Lane. After going up 3-0, David Moyes' West Ham tied it up with Mourinho's Spurs at the death with what I'm calling the best goal of the Premier League season. I know we're only 5 weeks in. 5 weeks in. But Manuel Lanzini, that strike was proper. And if there was any way to tie it up, I'm glad it was like that in dramatic fashion. Josh, how are you feeling? What do you think?
Yeah, I could use a Prozac or something. I'm feeling a little down. Look, the Lanzini strike was absolutely incredible. Davinson Sanchez headed into his own net. It was just a lame 10 minutes, and it sucks, especially after considering the first 15 minutes is the best football that Tottenham's played under Jose Mourinho thus far. And it looked like our day, we were playing so well. Kane and Son were linking up. Kane has 12 goal involvements in the first 5 games of this season, which is a record, Premier League record, not just a Tottenham record. And, and then Gareth Bale came on and the stars were aligning. I was sitting on my couch and I was shedding a tear. And then, Tottenham happened and we bottled it and we got a point out of a game where we should have got 3. So, yeah, I'm pretty upset.
Yeah. One of my favorite tweets of the weekend. Someone tweeted, "Tottenham are bringing on Gareth Bale, and West Ham are bringing on Manuel Lanzini." A bunch of laughing emojis, and then what proceeded was Just hilarious, and he now has tens of thousands of retweets. So that's wicked. We have to move on to some somber, maybe not somber, but kind of depressing news here. Going to the Arsenal and Manchester City game. Obviously, Manchester City beat Arsenal 1-0. Pep Guardiola beating his former student, Mikel Arteta. But one of the biggest stories that's come out of that match is the actions of Sergio Aguero and his interference, his inappropriate touching, some are calling online, of a lineswoman after the ball goes out of play. Jeff, I know you were tweeting about it over the weekend, and as well as many others who are arguing with this call. And Manchester City came to their striker's defense saying, "Oh, he's a nice guy." Is he a nice guy, Jeff? What do you make of that?
From what I've seen, Sergio Aguero seems to be a nice guy. He may be an ignorant guy, though. I mean, he is an ignorant guy, obviously. That's why this happened. And, the two can be, he can be one and the same. And the other thing we've obviously been seeing, as you would see with almost any sort of sexist situation, pretty much anything when it comes to women doing anything, apparently, in this world, is just people saying, well, it would be different if it was a man. Yeah, that's the point. It is different because it's harassment. It's sexual harassment. There's historical events that have happened. Well, I mean, that are still happening realistically to this day that people, I don't think, really want to fully admit or don't really acknowledge because it's been such a deep and serious problem that we've normalized. We've normalized that men can do whatever they want to them. They can touch them inappropriately. They can invade their personal space. They can say whatever they want to them. They can degrade them. They can do whatever they want. And it's not going to matter. It's just absolutely sickening. And it's so clear that that's yet another big problem we have in this football world. Isn't just racism. It's also extreme sexism. And Sergio Aguero should be banned. He should be punished. He should be fined. And not only that, he needs to learn. He needs to learn and he needs to become an example. Because if he is such a good guy, like Pep Guardiola says, and I believe him, I believe he's a good guy, then he'll take this opportunity to say, hey, you know what, let me be the leader. Let me be the leader and say, no, we're not going to do this. We're going to make sure women feel safe in this game, that they can watch this game and never feel uncomfortable or in any way, shape, or form, that they can go into an online forum and not feel attacked and not feel worried. And I think that's realistically what should be done here.
Yeah, we're definitely going to find out more from the Football Association in the week. Should there be changes that come? Well, we're going to wait and see. I to be honest with you, from a personal standpoint, I'm not very hopeful in this kind of thing. If the team themselves haven't really backed the support for the sexism or the fight against sexism, then will we see it from the Football Association? We'll find out. And now earlier I said we were going to take a tour of Europe. We're going to head over to Spain now in La Liga, where two who are almost always title contenders got into a little bit of hot water. Both Barcelona and Real Madrid lost narrow 1-0s in both their matches. Barcelona lost to newly promoted Cadiz, Madrid lost to Getafe, and when they both meet after the UCL break in El Clasico, who do we think is actually going to bounce back better in that game?
I would have to say it's got to be Real Madrid. I think what you see from both teams is like Barcelona was terrible defensively. They probably should have let in about 3 goals in total, I think. Messi's finishing, he missed a few shots. He hit the post. I think Getafe also defended Barcelona pretty well. But Barcelona was getting hit on the counter so easily. And the thing about Real Madrid, for the most part, defensively, they've been pretty good. Courtois has been shaky for sure this season, I think. I think he's sort of fallen off a little bit. But I think the issue now is that they're just not finishing. They don't have anybody who can finish. And last year was all down to Benzema. He's not getting it done. So I think they'll probably edge this one out coming next week.
Yeah, I don't think we need to make as big a deal out of the Madrid loss as we do out of the Barcelona loss, because Madrid created a lot of chances in that game. And it's one of those days where you just don't find the back of the net, and it's not really down to anything. It's down to the football gods, and you catch a loss. But I mean, it's their first loss of the season. From Barcelona's standpoint, I mean, they had like 75% possession in that game and did absolutely nothing with it. They don't seem like they really have an outlet on the goal side. And like Jeff said, they're pretty shaky on the defensive side as well. So for Ronald Koeman's men, I think there's a bigger hill to climb, especially when you're facing Madrid next week.
Well, I think there's little argument that these two sides are probably at their weakest they've been in the past decade. Like they're still so strong in Spain because maybe there isn't the depth and quality, but I have no faith in these clubs at any like European level. Like I'm gonna put my faith more in Real Madrid simply because they still have that old guard that has had success under Zinedine Zidane. But just seeing Brathwaite wear Suarez is number 9 at Barcelona just tells me all I need to know about that outfit, and it doesn't look good.
And yeah, funnily enough, that's all we're going to talk about in La Liga, because now we're going to fly over to another area of Europe, and that is Serie A. And Kurt, you love your Serie A, but you're not particularly too fond of AC Milan, who I think are on the right track into becoming a world-beating club again. Obviously, not in the near future, but they're sitting atop the Serie A table, leading by 2 points. They've played 4 and won 4, and being led by an aging Zlatan Ibrahimovic. He's always aging, but he had COVID last week and he scores 2 in this important match against Inter Milan. Are they on the right track? What do they need to do to kind of keep themselves going forward and stretching out this lead? Or can Juve or Inter Milan or others catch up?
Well, I'll be honest, like coming into the season, they didn't convince me with any moves that they had brought in. They got Tonali, and that is a phenomenal signing. That was the only exciting big move that you saw Milan do, where Inter were way more active, and even Juve got some good business done. But they've really come out of the guns like really blazing, and it's all led by Ibrahimovic. And we saw this when he came back to Milan last year. He changed the culture. It was almost like overnight. We hear about him deciding on how the lineup will be played, and he's really changed that team. And I don't know if they'll have the depth to hold on to this lead. We see the lead always go back and forth in Serie A. Just like last year, Inter and Juve fought for like the whole season. But it is really impressive. And if you're a Milan fan, you should be happy at this moment. But I think the other sides are kind of slacking. Like Inter was much better, I think, than Milan in this game. They got the Rossoneri got 2 quick goals. And then Lukaku answered in the 29th minute. But after that, they just couldn't capitalize on any options and ultimately lost the game. With Juve, it's hard to defend that team not winning against the worst side in Serie A, which they accomplished this week. But again, it was a team that missed a lot of opportunities. And frankly, there was another offside call that was absolutely atrocious. Morata scored what looked like his second goal of the game late on, and everyone celebrated. Even the announcers were like, this is a good goal. Everyone thought it was fine, and then our old friend VAR arrived and brought it all back, and we're left with a draw. So a lot of ifs and muts, but unfortunately just 1 point for Juve, and AC continues to lead.
Yeah, that's definitely not the end of VAR this season. It's affected, obviously, Serie A, but the Premier League we've been seeing week in and week out. We've been complaining about it, and I don't want to talk about it anymore. We're actually going to move on to a bigger picture, and that is Project Big Picture. If you've been following the football news this week, you would have heard of the proposal of Project Big Picture. It was a move that would look to implement the biggest changes to the English Football League since the birth of the Premier League in 1992. However, it was rejected and it got canned. We're not going to see it, but we may hear of it more in the future. You guys, what are your reactions to the proposal and the rejection?
Well, I don't know. I think there's still more to come from this story. Obviously, the Glazer family and the heads over at Fenway. There was parts about the proposal that I really liked, as in, the throwing out of the League Cup. I don't even mind making the league a little bit smaller, fewer games. For the teams that are in Europe, that, is a big thing. But it seems a little bit evil, and that's why people don't like it. It seems like a big corporation, evil takeover, takes all the power away from the smaller clubs. And the caveat being, if the power is taken away from the smaller clubs, they look to benefit with a little bit more cash, including a 250 million euro bailout. I don't think that's necessary for the smaller clubs when you're talking about finances. Right now, we're seeing a lot of teams in the championship and below with just abhorrent leadership and the ownership groups that just don't seem to care about the club. We've seen it with Barry, and we've seen it with Macclesfield Town, both capsizing. Hull City, Blackpool, these are clubs that have had bad ownership for years and years and years. So we start there. We need to think about, having a look at who we're bringing in as owners. before we actually start thinking about this massive 250 million euro bailout and this big change to the financial structure.
Well, yeah, Josh, I agree. Like, I think there are, as you said, principles with this plan that are promising, but it's something that's is going to need to be looked at further down the road, because we know how 2020 has impacted all these clubs financially. No one's really doing very well right now, especially the smaller clubs. So it's just not the right time to force this on them, and could impact them really detrimentally.
Yeah, and there were things about it I really liked. I love the fact that take away the Carabao Cup. Why do we need to be playing so many more games? I've always been an advocate of just making sure the players get some good rest. It just makes the quality of football much, much better. And giving some financial security for the teams towards the bottom is great. They need that. Same with the Women's Super League. They need that as well. A little bit more extra money. I've always said that the Premier League needs to give up a little bit of cash. I mean, they got tons of it. The issue, realistically, though, where they kind of lost me on it, was the idea that teams like the ones that proposed it, Manchester United and Liverpool, the two most popular teams in England, we're going to have all the control in terms of broadcast rights, which would basically leave all the other teams like way down toward the bottom. And essentially they wouldn't be able to really get much. And that to me is unfair, because I think if you take it like this, think of Leicester back when they won the Premier League. Do you think that they would make it if this, situation was in place? I don't think they would, because even if they win that, they're still not going to, they may have gotten a few more fans, but not that much compared to the rest, right? So there's no chance, I don't think, that they would be sustaining this kind of success that they have in the league so far. And I think it would be really, really detrimental. So I don't think it's the last we'll see of it, though. That's for sure.
It's a pyramid scheme. It's like they're selling Avon magazines door to door. I don't understand.
There's nothing wrong with Avon. I used to deliver those, actually. I'm dead serious. You guys laugh, but it's a good gig. It's a good gig. All right, we've looked at the news of the week and we've talked about the matches of the week, but now we have to look into the future, and it's going to be one of the most exciting weeks of the football calendar. It's the first week of the new UEFA Champions League season, and it's quite fun to look at because it's the first time that we're opening the season with no fans in attendance, and I think it's going to be feisty. So I have two questions for all of you. The first one is, which group are you most looking forward to? Which group is most intriguing? And the second one is, of match days on Tuesday and Wednesday, which match catches your eye the most? Jeff, I'm going to start with you.
I definitely think that the group you got to be watching for sure is Group H. And, obviously everybody's going to say, oh, Jeff, you're a Manchester United fan. Of course you want to watch them. I actually don't. I really want them to get knocked out really quickly because they're really not fit to be there. But I'm looking forward to more of the matchup of PSG versus Leipzig, because I just love Leipzig. Everybody knows that. Leipzig is great. And I think it's going to be a really good test to see where PSG is at. And I think also, too, where Leipzig's at. At the moment, they're at the top of the Bundesliga, and we're going to see if they can really stay there.
Well, if people are going to make fun of you, Jeff, for picking the group with your team playing in it, I'm going to be the same boat. We're going with Group G. But I'm really looking forward to see Juve trounce Barcelona. And maybe Ronaldo can whisper to Messi and say, hey, come play for us next year. It'll be a beautiful thing. It'll be the GOATs against each other. And you called it the washed up bowl earlier. These guys still have it. So it'll be a lot of fun. We just got to hope that Ronaldo's shaking the COVID just like Ibrahimovic did, and he's scoring a brace.
I don't know about you guys, but my favorite UEFA games of the week happen on Thursday, baby. Tottenham versus LASK. If you've ever heard of them, I'm sure you have not. But no, in all seriousness, this week I'm really excited about the Bayern versus Atletico match. I mean, I feel like that's probably not the best group considering Salzburg and Lokomotiv are the other two. What I really love about the group stages in the Champions League, though, is you kind of find out who's the Ajax and who's the Monaco and who's the Leipzig of this year, about who's going to be that team who really overextends and is kind of the Cinderella story of the year. And definitely as someone who has no eggs in the basket of the Champions League this season, that's a prospect that excites me a lot.
Yeah, and we're going to be sure to keep an eye on all that over the week, and hopefully talk about who we think the Cinderella story is going to be about. Maybe this week, maybe in the near future, but we'll get to all that when it comes. That's all we have time for on the Ultras on TS. If you like that and you want more, be sure to like and subscribe. It's all in the links down below.